first of all, let me just recap that and say something that I really enjoyed on that idea of how you take this agile methodology, and yes, you need to be changing continuously and optimizing, right? But if you're not creating lineage for your data, or if you are not keeping all of this data in check, then it's just going to be a nightmare when you want to go today and build products. And then you need this historic data, but it's been changed 5 times by that point. And so it's just like, how are we going to make a product that is doing any kind of prediction or anything when you don't have the data? So yeah, that is brilliant. And then I don't know what you said because I kind of lost you.
After that, it was really just a lot of it gets lost in translation as you're transitioning. So for any company of any size, when they're trying to create that new data product, the majority of the time, they really haven't collected the data they need because it's either changed too much, they don't have enough of it, or the process for setting up that collection period wasn't done by somebody that was, and this is going to be very simple and people may disagree, organized. And if you're not organized in data collection, you don't usually have a good end. Um, so for me, across the board, that was the interesting thing, because should that be a data scientist? And this is what we're going to keep going back to throughout the call, is from a role specification, that person's coming in, but collection, governance, integrity, reliability is usually something that needs to happen at a leadership level because it needs to be an initiative throughout the whole company.
Mm.
So who should be owning that? Should it be the solo data scientist that they just brought on that's supposed to create this fun new algorithm, and maybe they're highly invested in deep learning and they want nothing to do with the collection format, they just want it to be there? Or should it be somebody that's going to stay with the company probably a long time, because that's a whole different pipeline of work that needs to be done consistently? And in a startup, I don't know the right answer, because you could have one person, you could have 2 people, you could have 50 people. But how do you divide and conquer data collection when your core product is going to be a data product, and still allow your data scientists to create algorithms and work on predictive tools? And for us, our solve for that was really starting to push the idea that data science should function more as an R&D unit within the company, even if it's small, and always be a little bit ahead of the product build so that they can test that it actually works out. Some people may disagree with that, because at a certain stage in a startup, you just need something. So that first MVP, when you're trying to get investors to come in and say, yeah, let me throw a few million on this, do you say data science should be at least 3 to 6 months in advance when the company's only been around for 2 months? Probably not. That's a bad scenario. So there are some caveats. But when it really gets down to trying to figure out how you should be building out your data science team, they do need to be in the testing mentality of, does this algorithm work? Does this one algorithm also solve the unique case of always producing an output within the application? I have never seen that happen. Usually you have some hard-coded rules in the beginning and the end for when there's errors, it fails, or when the algorithm just isn't reliable enough to answer that question. But in that scenario, who should be writing the code? Who should be in charge of the application? Who should be in charge of those input, output, and ingestion points? From a high level, the way that I always explained it to leaders was, okay, you have one brilliant person at the company that you rely on for everything. They walk outside, the air is sunny, birds are chirping, and they get hit by a bus. Now what do? They, didn't love that example because it was a little dramatic, but it definitely stuck in their heads in a way where you continuously are thinking, okay, yeah, we're a company. So if we make this centered around one person with the idea that, yes, they can do it all, is that a good mentality? When do you bring in other people? I was always trying to create a broad enough scope to recognize that if that person wasn't hired yet, we should at least have them in the pipeline. And if you want your data scientists to do everything because they all are a full stack data scientist, you're going to run into problems because as soon as they start to create other algorithms that they need to monitor and maintain, you quickly lose them as a resource that can start to create new things.
Mm, that's a great
And
point right there.
they're usually not that great at it. I know that I am not that great at creating algorithms and maintaining them and monitoring them all at the same time. Um,
Mm.
and there's probably beautiful unicorns out there that are.